Amy Lensing-Tate, the Executive Director of the UWM Alumni Association. I'm thrilled to welcome you to our Mobile Master Chat today, featuring two special guests that will share an insider view of D1 Collegiate Athletics. Amanda Braun is in her 9th season as UWM's Director of Athletics. She's the first ever female to hold this post. She oversees her staff, coaches, and over 300 student athletes who compete in our 15 different Division I programs. She's had several huge accomplishments in her tenure, including bringing men's basketball back downtown and helping secure naming rights for the UW-Milwaukee Panther Arena. She also developed the partnership that led Milwaukee baseball to its new home, Franklin Field at Ballpark Commons. The department also received its first ever $1 million gift under Braun's watch. Also joining us is Patrick Baldwin. He's been head coach of the Milwaukee men's basketball team since 2017. In an unusual COVID season last year, Coach Baldwin led Milwaukee to the semifinals of the Horizon League tournament, following a comeback for the ages, overcoming the second largest deficit ever in NCAA history in the final 5 minutes of the game against Wright State. I'm sure many of our audience today remember that. In the classroom, his teams have been honored by the NCAA for academic achievement, including being just one of 35 men's basketball programs in the country and only one in the Horizon League to post a perfect 1,000 four-year rate. It's really incredible to put student and student athlete first in this program. So with that, it's my pleasure to turn things over to Amanda and Pat. They will be very conversational today in the chat and leave ample time for you all to jump in and ask questions from the audience at the end. So with that, take it away, Amanda.
Unmute. There we go. Can you hear me? There we go. All right. Yeah. Thanks for having us. We're excited to be here. I think Pat's suit is probably still drying out from that last game or that semifinal game. We are ready for the season. It is upon us. So we're happy to be here and share with you a little bit about our background and how we got to where we are. We get those questions quite a bit. How did you ever get to this job? And what was your path? Tell you a little bit about what we do every day and kind of the cycle of our job. And then really these last 12 to 18 months, what that's been like. And end on a view to the future, what this season looks like and how we are gearing up for that. So we'll get started. Coach, you want to share a little bit with the audience about your journey to becoming a head coach here at UWM?
Thank you very much, Amanda, and thank you to everyone that's on. And I'm going into my 21st year as a coach and going into my 5th year as a head coach. And to me it's a tremendous journey because you never know when the opportunity is going to happen for you, but all you want to do is do your very best at every place that you're at. And my old coach at Northwestern, Bill Foster, would always say, make every place your big time. And so I think along my journey, along my way, in those 21 years, I've really tried to make every place my big time. I started out as a Division II coach for a year at Lincoln University. And then I was an assistant coach at different stops, Green Bay for 2 years with Amanda, 7 years at Loyola University in Chicago, 2 at Missouri State, and then 4 years at my alma mater, Northwestern. And again, during that whole time, all I cared about was being the very best that I could possibly be, while trying to, continue to hone my craft and be a very good assistant coach and hopefully get the opportunity to be a head coach. So that's a little bit of my journey and where I've come from and how long it's taken me. And so happy to be in this position now where I get an opportunity to coach so many tremendous student athletes, and not only just in men's basketball. I get an opportunity to meet other student athletes from our other programs here at Milwaukee, and it's a tremendous honor to be a part of this group.
Yeah, thanks, Coach. I'll share a little bit about my path, and then maybe we can talk a little bit about some of our mentors and any challenges or surprises we saw along the way. I'm from Wisconsin, So I'm also in my, I think it's 22 years of working in college athletics, if you don't count my graduate school years. So been a fun ride, and I am in my 9th year here at UWM. Loving every moment. These jobs are really, really busy. No dull moments at all, and plenty of challenge. After graduating from Broadhead High School in Wisconsin, I played basketball at Siena in upstate New York, a small Division I school there. New experience for me, living out east like that was new and different. Didn't intend on being an athletic director or even working in athletics. I was pre-physical therapy and stumbled along the way, decided not to do that, tried law school, dropped out of law school, didn't want to do that. Ended up at the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill studying athletic administration for my master's, and fell in love with it. I had an opportunity to work at Duke University during my graduate time, and really had a wonderful experience there. And my first job out of grad school was UW Green Bay. And I think shortly after I started, maybe a year or two, it might have been my second year, Patrick joined our staff. And we were the early low totem pole folks, first in, last to leave. We worked directly together. We don't look any different now than we did 20 years ago, 19 years ago when we started together. So a lot of fun. I went from Green Bay to Northeastern University in Boston. I had a wonderful mentor there, learned so much about the business, about serving student athletes in a university. And then this job opened now 9 years ago nearly. And I knew this was a really great fit for me, and was fortunate enough to be hired on, and working every day to honor that and appreciate it as I go. So I'll hand it back to you, Coach. You want to share a little bit about a couple of mentors who helped you along the way, and how they did that?
Yeah, I again appreciated Amanda, and your story is tremendous. Your background and how we met and came to know each other. But I have some tremendous mentors, and the thing that I always go back to is my first coaches. And when I was growing up in Leavenworth, Kansas, it's a small community right outside of Kansas City, and I think of my junior high coach, Mr. Ewing, or Coach Ewing, we used to call him, and he taught me so many things about the psychology of the game and the mental part of the game that I think was before his time. One of my greatest mentors, he actually visited me a couple of weeks ago, is Coach Larry Hogan. He was my high school coach, and he taught me so many life lessons that were not just about the game that I still hold to this day. And I wear a band on my wrist, and on the band it'll say hustle. And we had a motto. It was H3. We were the H3 pioneers, and that just stood for hustle, hustle, hustle. So that's the way that I kind of live my life, whether it's on the court, off the court. I'm always trying to hustle, always trying to be the best that I can possibly be at whatever I'm doing. So he was a great mentor to me, and still, I consider him like a second father to me. But great father figure, great mentor to me. And then as I go through college, my college coach, Bill Foster, God rest his soul, was tremendous in how he taught me about the other side of basketball off the court, about the marketing side, about the networking, and how important that was to what he did. And so he was tremendous. And then as I got going as a coach, every single head coach that I worked under and worked for were great mentors for me. And I would just say that two of the best, in my opinion. I'll give a third, but Jim Weitzel, that was the head coach at Loyola University. Paul Lusk, who was the head coach at Missouri State, and then Chris Collins, who was the head coach at Northwestern. They all gave me so many wonderful tips and advice on what it took to not just be a good coach, to be a great coach, and ultimately lead me to where I am today. So great lessons, great people in my corner, and then I always fall back on the two greatest mentors of all, and those are my parents.
Yeah, thanks, Coach. I'll pick up where you just left off of my parents. I think about it all the time now as I'm older, that they just never let me think I couldn't do whatever it was, I wanted to do. But I would reach all the way back to early high school also for my first mentor, Terry Tinkle, who you met, I think, Patrick,
Yeah.
or Pat, I just called you your son's name. I knew Pat as Patrick my first couple years. And that's a funny story why you're now Pat.
Right.
John said he's going to be Patrick when Patrick was born, and you're like, I guess I'm Pat now.
Yes.
Anyway, so I think, Pat, you've met Terry Tinkle, and he was a coach of mine in high school, and similar to my parents, like, there's nothing you can't do. He encouraged me to spread my wings a little, try somewhere different. And that's part of the reason why I wound up out east when I was recruited to go out there instead of staying in the Midwest. So he was a big influence on me. And I mentioned in grad school, and I was working at Duke University. Got to get up and stand, walk
I
around.
know. Move around a little bit.
Yeah. At Duke University, I interned for senior associate AD and senior woman administrator Jackie Seiler, former coach and a fantastic person. And again, somebody, they say if you see it, you think you can be it. You have that belief. And Jackie certainly was a strong woman leader, just a strong leader generally, taught me a lot early on. And then some bosses along the way, similar to what you mentioned. Ken Butoff, dear friend and a mentor, was my boss at Green Bay for, I think, my last 5 or 6 years there. And then Peter Roby, my boss out at Northeastern University, the athletic director there, while I was there. So people that just really encouraged me, gave me lots of responsibility, where you know how that happens. You probably, as an assistant coach, right? You're like, you want me to be responsible for that? The next thing you know, you find yourself working even harder and finding confidence in yourself because they believed in you. So those are just a few people, but really key to me. So before we move on to what our jobs are like every day, Pat, why don't you share maybe one or two challenges or surprises along the way to getting where you are?
Yeah, I think I was fortunate to probably similar to you. I was looking at my path and what I was going to do after I graduated, after I stopped playing. And one of the things that I was fortunate is working in corporate America. I was a business analyst at Dean Foods Company for 3 years. And one of the things that I learned from the CEO and from the people who managed me, or who were very important to me, is do everything. Nothing is too small for you to do within the organization. Learn about the plants. We had several plants that I would visit often and get to know the behind the scenes and what really drove Dean Foods Company. So for me, when I got to Lincoln University, a D2 school in Jefferson City, Missouri, and just got off fresh from playing, was about to go play again in Italy, but then I got my calling to coach. And so the challenge and not necessarily the surprise, but I forgot about it, but I learned it quickly, was that I had to do everything. I had to recruit, I had to sweep the floor, I had to do the laundry, I had to check classes, I had to, there were so many things that I had to do, that 24 hours wasn't just enough. I put in a plea to try to add another 8 hours, to make it 32 hours a day. But that didn't work. So, but that was the challenge early on, is how can I be the very best while trying to do everything at once? And so that kind of led me to how I am today, because I know the behind the scenes, the important people like our managers, who are really, really important to our program, and our, having our guys with their clothes washed, their practice jerseys washed every single day. It's our marketing people, it's our staff, and what my assistant coaches do on a daily basis for me. That helped me to get to this point where I understood all the challenges from I can't do everything to now is the challenge of delegating. And that's something that I had to learn, because I was always used to doing everything. And there's just not enough time, and also there's too much that can be overlooked if I think that I can and have the opportunity to affect and impact on a daily basis. So my challenge is always to delegate. My challenge is also to trust, to make sure that the people that are around me are capable, which I know that they are, and they're going to do a great job. So that's always a challenge because I love to do everything.
Yeah, thanks, Coach. I witness that daily with you. Yeah, I've navigated the same path trying to do that. Well, I know you've got a fantastic team of people working with you, so certainly in good hands when you do delegate. I think for me, surprise was how many challenges there are in these jobs, and a lot of people don't, I often get like, oh, that's a fun job. Yeah, most days, that's what I usually say, it really is, but there is a lot of challenge. We serve a lot of constituents, right? Obviously, starting with our student athletes and for me, our coaches and staff. And then, I serve our campus as you do, Pat, and then our community. And we've got a national connection too within our league and the NCAA. So there's just a lot there to tackle. And I think that was for me, as I progressed as a leader, and I was a deputy AD at Northeastern my last 4 years there. That was a big part of it. Like, wow, there is a lot of challenge to this job. And that was one of the things Peter promised me. He's like, hey, I think you want to be an AD one day. I was like, I don't know. Like, I love what I do, but I don't know everything you deal with. So he's like, all right, here's the deal. You'll be involved in everything. So my last 3 years, it was I learned. So really it comes down to what you just said too, is having a great team, to trust them to take on some of those challenges that I just simply don't have the bandwidth for. And we obviously want to live healthy lives and that sort of thing. So fortunately, a great challenge is finding great people. And we're fortunate at UWM that not just what we do every day, but this university and this city attracts great people. So I think that helps with my challenge. This daily, just the number. Some days you're like, whoa,
Without a doubt.
gotta bite it off a little at a time, right? So okay, well, let's shift. And hopefully those of you that are tuning in, if you've got questions about that, feel free to jot those down or put them in the chat. I'm not sure how Amy's got that set up, but let's shift to kind of the day-to-day. What's your job day-to-day over the course of a year? Talk maybe about what you enjoy and what we kind of talked about what's most challenging. So what are the things you enjoy the most in your day-to-day?
Yeah, if I can start right now because it's right here in front of us. I'll go from October until the end of our season and what we do, but it won't be. Trust me, it won't be that long. I'll try to break it down briefly, but right now I'm in basketball mode. We're practicing. So when I come in, it's the day things that we talk about are meeting with our staffs. What does our day look like? Obviously, our student athletes are first and foremost on our minds regarding class schedules, classes. Prior to me coming in here, I had one of my colleagues come in and say, hey, I checked all of our classes. We're all good. I had another one say, hey, I need to talk with you about some gear. So there's a lot of different things that go on daily in this. And I haven't even been in, an hour into the office yet. But so right now we're in practice mode. We'll practice at 3:30. Prior to that, we'll have some film session or conversations with our coaches about what we plan on doing with our practice. We'll go through a practice from 3:30 till 5:30 or 6, depending upon the time and time of year. So that's a daily thing. I'll call, recruits. I'll be on the phone with them from the time maybe that I get out of practice and maybe up until there really isn't a time that I can tell you on a daily basis how that would be when I'm off the phone with some recruits. And then I'm watching film, I'm watching practice, and trying to help our guys improve each and every day. So in the season, that's what that looks like. If it's a game day or leading up to a game day, I'm preparing my game plan. I'm watching film constantly. If it's 3 days prior to a game, I could watch anywhere from 5 to 6 games, depending upon the time of the year. We're preparing for North Dakota on November 9th, and which is our first game. And then we have our homecoming game on November 13th against Eastern Kentucky. So I'm even watching and preparing for those games right now and putting our practice plans together. But, we'll go through, similar with our meetings, we'll go through our game plan and what we want to try to do to attack our opponent and beat them and put ourselves in a great mood for the next day. And that's about it from a day-to-day basis. But as I fast forward, we have our non-conference games that go usually from November to December. December, we play some conference game. We play 2 conference games in December, and then really from January until hopefully we win a national championship in April. That's the last part of the season. Our games are typically during our conference slate or Thursday, Saturday. Last year during COVID was different. We went back to back on Friday, Saturdays. So that was a challenge. But usually it's Thursday, Saturday during the conference, and then we're off and running in those games, and then Final Four, then off season, which usually from April until probably the middle part of May, we'll have kind of a breakdown session, but we also just train with our guys, and then the summer starts and it begins the entire cycle once again.
Yeah, thanks, Coach. There is no one day, week, or month that's the same, although they all seem to run together. So
Right,
I hear you on that. Similarly, I'm in that cycle of, the fall starting, and that's mid-late August. Our teams early August for women's soccer show up, for practice and preseason, and we're getting geared up for the year. It's really an exciting time of year, August, and I usually try to take a little time off right early August. It's my birthday right around there. You're an August birthday too.
Yes.
To take a little time and just kind of refresh and get going when I come back. So our fall sports get off and running right now. We are on fire. As you know, Pat,
Yeah.
women's soccer, volleyball in first place in our league, and men's soccer, I think, is right there in the second, third place. So we are busy, and that's just our teams. We go through winter sport programs and spring, and competitions continue to happen on nights and weekends. And then my job involves far less direct involvement with students than you get, and that I used to have earlier on. Sometimes I have to fabricate ways to spend time with our athletes, but I do spend a lot of time here internally strategizing with our great staff, our senior team, our exec team on what we're doing around everything from business operations to marketing, our programs to academic support, strength and conditioning, and sports medicine down the line. So we talk about that and really kind of run that with our student athletes in mind. And then some campus and community involvement is regular meeting wise, and that changed a lot for COVID. And we were going to talk about that a little kind of next. Is that changed quite a bit? I was not used to sitting in front of a computer quite as much as I did for that 12 to 16 months. So being out in the community and on campus is big for me to really tell the story of Panther athletics and get people to think about us and care about us and maybe support us financially. That's a part of what we do. And then I spend time in the Horizon League on the governance and our council. And then the NCAA, I'm involved in some committee work there, most recently appointed to the women's basketball committee. So that's going to be really busy this year. That'll be my first year there. So there's, like you, not a whole lot of every day is the same. I try to, after COVID now, try to create a little more structure in my schedule, which seems to be working for now. But yeah, it's a busy time. Community events and functions happen nights and weekends, and we want to represent the Panthers at that when we can. So doing that as often as possible. So it's a lot of fun, and it is why I left law school, because it was just not enough variety for me. I was starting to realize that, like, this is just going to be too much of one thing. And while I did play college basketball, I think one of the things I most enjoy is certainly meeting new people and learning new things. And part of that is sports outside of basketball, right? Like I love basketball. It remains my favorite sport and probably always will be. But it's been fun getting to know the different sports over my career. At the different places I've been, field hockey, overseeing field hockey, rowing, all these skiing sports. You're like, what do they do? Like, what is that? So it's been cool. I would say that that's most enjoyable, and just being around people that are like-minded, really goal-oriented and wanting to achieve. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. Similar to you, it's kind of hard to even think about it. Like, what is my job like every day? So hey, let's shift gears, Pat, to the last 18 months and, kind of how we led through this pandemic, dust off some of those memories that I wish I could just block out. And what did we learn? How do we do things differently? You mentioned some of the game scheduling was different. Obviously, recruiting was different that during the pandemic. So why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And some of the things when you get into coaching, you think that it's all about basketball and being on the court, and it's what's involved there. And I didn't learn a lot of the things that I know now until probably year 7 or 8, because because there's so many different things that coincide with basketball that come into play that really impacts us. But also there's some situations that we're getting into the mental health of our student athletes, which is really important. And at a very personal level, I dealt with that when we were at Green Bay with a young man, and now he's really turned the corner, and he's one of my favorite people to talk to. I'm so happy that he's an assistant coach now, and when I see him on the road, he just reminds me of why I coach and why I'm in this profession. But during the pandemic, it really opened my eyes to what really matters the most. And I think we, as coaches, we very often get caught up into the game, and we get caught up into the recruiting aspect. We get caught up into the live action. We get caught up into so many different components that really take us away from what's truly important. And sorry about that. That's our student athletes, and I'm raising my hands to our student athletes because they're really important. But we took that for granted, especially when the pandemic hit. And so I realized that, how I needed to lead was totally different than how I did in the past. I had to be, I can say a mentor, but I had to improve in that area of mentorship. And I had to improve even though I don't have a degree in psychology, I really had to become better as a listener and understanding the plight of our student athletes and what they were going through the pandemic. But when we first learned of the pandemic in 2020, that changed my life, and it changed our student athletes' lives forever, in my opinion, in the way that we have to respond and I hate to say deal with them, but work with our student athletes. And it made me have a much more interpersonal relationship with our student athletes, and get to know them and find out what's truly going on with them. And so as we work through the March or the April and May and June and on through our season last year, even before the season started, I felt like we started to get a little bit of a better connection. Although I felt like we did have some to begin with. But what we did during the pandemic was unprecedented. It was challenging, and to get through it, so to speak, I think we're still going through a little bit of that phase, but to get through it and work through it helped us grow tremendously. Me personally, and then certainly the young men that I work with each and every day, our staff, we became a lot closer, and I think that's led to some very, very positive things that are happening right now within our program, and how we connect individually and as a group. But I learned how to be a better leader. I learned how to be a better listener, and but then also recognize a lot clearer and better and earlier what really is going on with our student athletes, and try to address that as much as and as quickly as I possibly could.
Yeah, thanks, Coach. Yeah, I was a little concerned with our top recruit living in your home, and you spending all that time with him. I was like, oh boy, is he gonna get burnt out? Oof, are we gonna have a chance by the end of this thing? No,
Right, right.
I know you guys are close, and I'm sure it actually lent itself to winning him over. So, it's interesting you mentioned the mental health challenges that really surfaced, and you think about the racial justice issues, and that we're dealing with as a society within higher ed and athletics, and you personally, Pat, and then some of the gender equity things that surfaced also, particularly within athletics, and it has been a lot to try to sort through and figure out how to talk with student athletes in a way that they feel, like you said, listened to and cared for. And then not just talk, but what can we do together? And that's the hardest thing of all. But persistence, like all athletes know, persistence pays, and you keep at it and you keep doing what we can. Both Pat and I serve on our diversity equity work group here in our department. They actually had a meeting during our time, so shout out to them for the work they're doing. But it's important, and focusing on mental health. We've got a great senior associate AD, Kathy Litzow, who leads that up for us and does a fantastic job. She really doubled down the last year and a half, just trying to utilize every resource at our disposal to support our student athletes. And sometimes it doesn't feel like it's enough, but you keep doing what you can. So definitely learned that. But on a personal level, learned, I think, like a lot of people, the importance of family. During this time, I was able to reconnect a little more closely because I had all these nights and weekend hours last fall that we didn't have competitions, right? Our fall teams weren't even competing. I couldn't come to the office there. And so I did. I learned how important that is, and valuable. And you knew it before, but knew it even more. My dad's had some health issues, so it's important, and prioritizing that. And then, like we talked about before, the strength of our team, of our people here, that became very obvious. That I definitely learned during this pandemic is our team is so amazing, and our culture is reflected by that the work that they all do. So, and I mentioned earlier my schedule, trying to manage that and make sure my priorities stay where they have been and where I've realized they need to be, and do justice to those. So we'll see. We're still sorting through this, but I am grateful that we aren't talking about COVID every day. We were meeting far too often about that topic, and necessary, obviously, but wow, pretty tedious. So, well, hey, let's shift gears again here. We've got name, image, likeness going on right now. A lot of people may not know what that is, but I'll do a quick primer, and then Coach, if you want to talk about what you anticipate the impact to be, or what we're seeing, not just our program, but nationally and within maybe the sport of basketball. Those that may or may not know, the name, image, likeness, known as NIL, has really shifted in this since July 1. A lot of national conversation over the last year and a half about allowing student athletes to utilize their name, image, and likeness to make money. And so people ask, well, what does that mean? And that means that you can use your name to go and strike up an endorsement with a product anywhere, and make money off of that. Could be social media, it could be a local, restaurant, or whatever it might be, and be able to do that. They weren't able to do that before. Things like running a camp or clinic with utilizing your own name. And so if you're a baseball player and you want to do a baseball clinic and utilize your name back in your hometown and make, some money off of that, we can allow them to do that, which is, I think, fantastic. So that's the positive side, right? That we definitely think it's a good thing. Where it will go will be interesting. I think the implications, the only NCAA rules that still stand around name, image, likeness are recruiting inducement. So you can't say, hey, you come here, we're going to make sure you get this car from this car dealer. And every state is different because there are state laws, and sometimes, like Wisconsin, no state laws that regulate this now. And so we created our own policy, and we can help coordinate. We can introduce our student athletes to people who might be interested. There are some legal issues where we don't want to get involved in helping them make deals, but there's real positive. So the other thing is, can't be a recruiting inducement, can't be pay for play. So if you play so many minutes, you get this compensation or this sort of endorsement deal. But otherwise, the world is open. And so, Coach, tell us what you think about that positively, and what you see as maybe some challenges here.
Yeah, when I first introduced NIL to anyone or talked to anybody about it, they mixed up the letters and they were saying NLI, and that's, well, we already signed the National Letter of Intent. We have guys, and we're working with that. And this is the NIL, which is name, image, and likeness. And before we first even got to know what this all entailed and what it would become, it was unknown. It was, how do we navigate this? And just like you said, Amanda, where will it go once it gets passed, or if it gets passed? At the time, we didn't know. But where will it go? What does it mean for our student athletes, whether it's lower level, higher level? There's so many things to navigate with this that it could take. I don't know how many committees you're on, Amanda, but I think it'll take a lot of committees to truly find out and get to the bottom of it, and what it means. But name, image, and likeness for me, I think it's a great thing. It's a great thing, but also you have to have some security around it as well, because there's so many things that can trip up a young student athlete or a very good student athlete from the standpoint of what it can potentially do for them. When I got into college athletics, whether it was playing or whether it was coaching, I thought there was it was innocent, so to speak, where you're just playing because of the love of the game, and that was the most important thing. And the name that was most important was the name on the front of your jersey, which I always talked about and thought about and really truly believe in. And then the name on the back of our jersey is coming into prominence now. And it just gives an opportunity for young student athletes that have that platform and have some sort of ability that someone wants to market or give an opportunity to. So it allows them to take advantage of that. And we've had some young men who've had a basketball camp, and to go back to your hometown. That's what it's all about, to be able to do that and give back to your community and where you're from, and that meant so much to the young man who was able to do that within our program and do some of that with his community. It's going to mean a lot, when a company or going through network things that someone wants to say, what, we want to pay you for your smile or for your personality or for your ability, but also marketing our product. That's what this all came down to, being able to do that. So there's some benefit in that. So a student athlete can earn some money off of their name, and endorsement deals and get all that. Just like you said, Amanda, the pitfalls are what happens after, what becomes most important, the inducements and what really happens in the conversation or the conference with other universities or coaches behind the closed doors. And if there aren't parents involved, if there isn't counsel or really good counsel with our student athletes that are being that NIL is driving them, and the coaches or the universities that are enticing these young men and women to come to their respective universities, that's where it can be a challenge. And I hope that we get to that point where it's never going to be perfect what we how we get to the point of true monitoring. But at the same time, I hope it gets to the point where there's enough parameters that we truly understand and we can protect our student athletes.
Yeah, you said that word monitoring. I think that's what's lost right now, right? The NCAA's really absolved themselves, due in large part to the public criticism of regulation at that level. And we saw the government get involved, federal government and states, and some made some laws, and federal government talked about we're going to, introduce all these bills. There were several of them, and they've just sort of dropped it now, which is interesting. They're kind of leaving us out there. And so there is no consistency and no enforcement of what is the value put on one commercial appearance by a student athlete. Is it $1,000? Is it $100,000? And we're just sort of left out there. It's going to be really interesting. And you and I know this kind of thing was going on under the table for forever, at a lot of places. And now there's some permissible things, and it's murky water. And honestly, and you share this, I think, with me, Pat, it's great. But that's the short game, right? These kids need to get an education, and we need to do our job to make that happen.
Yes.
As an association, in particular, Division I and some of the higher profile sports, we gotta give them an education so that the long play is beyond the endorsements they might have gotten, and goes far beyond, as you always say, when the ball stops bouncing, whenever that is. So it's an interesting deal. I don't know where we'll end up, but like everything, we'll just keep at it. So, well, hey, let's I want to turn a little bit to the recruiting side of things. It was a little different these last 18 months or so, recruiting, and really different for you, given your top recruit was living with you. So I know people might want to hear a little bit about that, whatever you're willing to share, and then how we're impacted by scheduling once Patrick did make his decision. You can speak generally about both those things. A lot of people don't know much about recruiting or scheduling, so fire away.
Yeah, these last 18 months it's been great and also challenging, as we had talked about. And certainly during the pandemic, Zoom and Teams became a very popular term for meetings and whatever entity that you're involved with. And specifically in our case, when it first happened, I was planning a trip to go recruit to a tournament out of state, and as soon as we got the word, I had to cancel that trip, and now all of our efforts in recruiting and what we were planning on doing had to cease. So what was our next turn? What were we going to do? And so Teams and Zoom was the next thing that happened for us, and it became a challenge. A lot of my recruiting efforts were similar to what we're doing right now. I was on Zoom with recruits and showing them video. I'm trying to figure out when to push a button. We all know what happens a lot of times when it's your turn to speak and you're still on mute and you're talking. I probably gave some of the best speeches when I was on mute.
Nobody ever heard, right?
Yeah. And I couldn't reenact what I said, or I forgot maybe some of the key, or lost some of the impact of it. But so a lot of what was going on during the pandemic in the last 18 months happened on Zoom, especially with recruiting. We had to entice, and I feel like Milwaukee and the area and our school, we're in such a beautiful area here, beautiful homes. We're right 5 minutes from the lake, the downtown area. There's so many things and great things to offer here, and our university is really progressing. And so there are so many things that I could offer, but I couldn't bring them here to show them what Milwaukee had to give them, and for their next 2 or 4 years, however long they would be here. And so we had to be really creative on Zoom. We had to use this format to the best of our abilities, and a lot of our guys that committed just was off of blind faith. Obviously, we talked to them a little bit, prior, and we had some prior relationships as well. But the guys that we had in, they had to trust that what we were, I hate to say selling, but what we were telling them and what we were giving them was the truth, and that they would have an unbelievable world-class experience here. And so that was what was going on in recruiting.
It certainly helped when the Bucks were making their run, did their district shots. You could see Panther Arena, right? think I texted you at
Absolutely.
one point. I said, "Are you seeing this?" And you're, "Oh yeah, I'm texting my recruits. This is our home right here." That was pretty.
Absolutely. And that was one of the greatest impacts of not being able to be in person with our recruits or the people that we were bringing in was the Bucks and their tremendous run and winning a national or winning a world championship and certainly down at the Deer District and seeing the pack and throngs of crowds in front of Fiserv Forum and Panther Arena right next door to it, and we could send out kind of that aerial and pandemic shot of Fiserv Forum and Panther Arena, just what it looked like, and that was the carrot for a lot of these kids when they saw that. They were saying to us, "I got to be there, and I want to be there," and so that was great to see, great to be a part of, and I think there's a great link between the Bucks and what they've done and in the community, and the link here to UWM and the impact that it has here. So it's really been a great boon for us. In recruiting Patrick, I think it was a great enticement as well. He saw the value of Milwaukee, not just our school, but the value of the entire city and the impact that if we could draw on what they did and take some of that energy and put it into UWM here, I felt very good, or he felt very good, that this could be something very special here as well. And then as it relates to getting him and him deciding that this is the place that he wanted to be, when we go into scheduling, we try to do that early. And prior to that, when we were trying to schedule all of these games prior to him coming in, many knew that there was the chance of the opportunity that he would come here. So they were waiting. So in the years past, they would say, "Yeah, sure, let's get the contract out, whether it's home or away. Let's sign that and let's move on, because we have some other things we have to get to." But scheduling became a tremendous challenge because he hadn't committed yet, and this is back in May, and we couldn't get. And Amanda knows, Amanda, we were trying to get some things done early, and then once he committed to us and signed, that's when a lot of deals fell off the table. So, and give credit to John Bowler, who was working night and day on our scheduling. We exhausted every single means and opportunity to try to find the right opponents, and to also find those challenging games that we wanted to give our fans and especially at home, and then certainly on the road as well. So, scheduling is a challenge without that happening. And then once he committed and signed, it became the ultimate challenge of bait and switch. And I think there were a lot of excuse making at the time too.
Yeah, it's funny. I've said that to a lot of people in our community, that scheduling got even harder. And they're like, really? They had this perception that with Patrick, people would want to play us, and it's interesting, the perception. But yeah, that was, I think we closed it up right end of August, third week of August. We finally got it, which is easily a couple months late. Well, that's a good segue. Let's end on, before we open it, I think we want to leave some time for questions, but the upcoming season, just a real quick overview. You mentioned the schedule.
Yeah, we're excited about getting started. Number one, we have a tremendous schedule, challenging in both, whether we are on the road or here at home. But we have 16 home games. We're very excited about that, between our non-conference and conference games. And we start out on the road on November 9th, as I mentioned before. But and then on November 13th, we want all of our alumni and fans and people to come out and support as we play Eastern Kentucky on November 13th. And it's going to be a great game. Eastern Kentucky's a very good team, and certainly one that we'll have to work for. But it's going to be a great opportunity, and the first time in over a year and a half that we had any fans in Panther Arena, and we're back down there. So this will be the first time, even a lot of our guys from last year, that it'll be their first time playing in Panther Arena. So we're excited about that. We have our non-conference slate that features Florida and Colorado as big big non-conference games where we go down to Florida in the Tip-Off Classic. We play them, or Tip-Off Challenge. We play them on November 18th, and then we play two mid-major opponents after that, the 23rd and 24th. Colorado's December 10th. Prior to that, we even have Rhode Island coming here, which is a great game. Rhode Island out of the A10 is perennially one of the best teams in the athletic 10, and they come here, which is a rare home game that they would come to. So, and then we have Horizon League schedule, which is tough, which is very good. The Horizon League is in my opinion one of the best mid-major conferences in the country. We're on ESPN, ESPN Plus. We have a number of different games, but we'd rather see you in person than anything. But our schedule, we love it. It's going to be challenging, but it's great to be back in front of our fans.
Yeah, thanks, Pat. It is going to be fun. I think we got like 7 home games before the holidays. So yeah, hopefully people come out. Well, Amy, those are the things we thought we'd cover today. Do we have questions or any feedback or thoughts from folks?
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. It was really fascinating. I think a lot of things that people don't realize go into the jobs that you do every day. We do have some questions from the audience, and I encourage everybody that's logged on, please keep adding them. We do have about 10 minutes left. So the first one is, how big a role does winning play in gaining support for fundraising for the department?
Yeah, I think it's important, and we recruit young people because they want to come and compete for championships, right? Like that's what it's about. They want to get a great education here at UWM, but certainly they want to be competitive. So yeah, it matters that we win competitions, we win games. We want that to be our tradition, and we work hard to do that. So more than anything than the winning is the relationships, right? And Pat has done a fantastic job working with me and with Chris Roach, our development director, and getting to know the folks in our community who care about UWM and Panther athletics. And when we build a strong relationship and they see what we're doing to build this and the culture that we have, it translates to support.
Right. And then we have a question specifically for you, Amanda, from Joey. He says, how does UWM go about expanding varsity sports? And specifically, is there interest in women's and men's rugby?
Yeah, I get those questions quite a bit. Usually at least once a year, are we adding football? I get that. And my answer is very always the same, is that we want to support the programs we have to the level that they deserve before we would think about adding any sports. And so we aren't quite there yet. We have a lot of things we're trying to achieve to support those programs. So we aren't quite at adding sports. I don't anticipate that happening anytime soon.
Okay. And then how are the skills and mindset achieved from sports? How do you see that as building these folks in their lives as graduates? What life lessons come from the field into real life that you've seen in your athletes?
Yeah, I always point to this, and it was given to me very early that, sports is a metaphor for life. And we're constantly talking to our young men about how this translates to way beyond the ball bouncing or the ball hitting the bat or anything like that. And so we talk about this every day. We meet all the time about what's really important, what really matters. And the relationships is a great thing that really matters. When we have young men that they're going to be the best men at their the weddings, hopefully. They're going to be fathers. They're going to be, they're already, sons or daughters. And, so that's really important. But also they're going to be a part of another team, whether it's, in my case, I was a part of a team of Dean Foods Company or now coaching. They're going to be part of another team. And it could be a family, as a family member, as a husband, a wife, anything else. It could be that you're a part of a team of another organization. So we teach teamwork. We talk about responsibility. We talk about accountability and how important that is going forward. And
then something that kind of plays off that, just the incredible kind of character of your athletes was on display. This past Saturday, we had our annual 5K run walk, and we had hundreds of student athletes out there as volunteers. And we got a lot of comments back from alumni who were participating at how incredible it was to see them cheering them on along the course. So could you speak to it all? They have a lot. They have the classroom, they have practices, which I'm sure are grueling. They have games, but what's the expectation for kind of volunteerism and community work that you place on the athletes in addition?
Yeah, I'll answer that real generally and then let you talk about your team, Pat. That's important to us. We're in a community that needs and deserves a lot of support, right? And I think if we can teach our student athletes that that's part of growing and becoming an adult and giving back to your community. So we do have expectations. We actually have, we kind of compete. There's an award at the end of the year. We're very careful how we do that. It's on a per student athlete basis so that a large track team can't accumulate a bunch of hours and beat a 10-person tennis team. But that's kind of how we reinforce that is creating those types of programming and competitions to make it fun and teach them a little bit. But Pat, I know you've got some expectations for your team too.
Yeah, and I'll draw back when I first went to Croatia as a player. I said I wanted to immerse myself into their culture, into their community, and I think it's the same way that I want our young men and women here to understand what my expectations are. I want them to immerse and throw themselves into our Milwaukee community and our UWM community because this is who they are and what they're about. And there's so many different things that you can draw from this, so many relationships that you can build. And I sent a photo to our student athletes because one of the runners, or the moms of a runner who actually I think came in second or third in the race, came to me and said, you know what, I had the tremendous opportunity to meet one of your student athletes, and she said, in paraphrasing, I couldn't express to you enough how grateful I am of that encounter. And so we took a picture and I sent it to our guys in a group chat and just told them the remarkable impact that they are making within our community isn't lost. So that's why we do it. I think it's become ingrained with our student athletes, and you talk about character, and that's who we are, whether it's men's basketball or tennis or track and field or volleyball.
Incredible. Thank you. That I've seen that tradition grow in the department over the 13 years I've been on campus. And it's really amazing to see how seriously they take that. It makes a big impact. Okay. So it looks like a lot of the questions that came in were pandemic related, and you guys covered that, and that really was of interest to people. So a final one here is, can you both discuss the type of student athlete you look for as recruits? What personal characteristics are most critical in that?
I'll hit real quick, and then Pat, you're on the front lines with the student athletes. For me, anyone that comes into Panther Athletics, we want them to be great teammates, right? Like genuine people who care about something bigger than themselves and want to be a part of something bigger than themselves. But yeah, that's the base level for me. Pat, what are you looking for?
Yeah, I look for someone that's similar to me, and sometimes it's hard because you're always going to find somebody that's different, but you try to mold them into a team. So I think of somebody who cares about family. I think of our men's basketball program. I think about all of our other programs in our department as family. So someone who cares about family, and that's what Amanda was just talking about. It's bigger than just me. They want to be a part of something. So people who want to be a part of our family here, who care about each other, who obviously want to get a great education, that they want to do something not only just from an athletic standpoint, but from an academic standpoint, educationally, and where they go from here. And then, character is always going to be the biggest thing. If we're recruiting you, it goes without saying, we think that they can play. So that is the last thing on my list, especially if we're recruiting them. But we definitely want someone that has character, that cares about each other, that cares about family, that wants to be a part of something bigger than themselves, as Amanda talked about as well.
Great. Thank you both. I can't express how appreciative we are for you taking time during busy season, busy school year. We know how demanding it is. So really appreciative sharing this inside view. And a reminder to everybody, we'll be back December 1st, featuring Dan Egan, who's an award-winning author, presenting on past and future of the Great Lakes, which I just completed his book, Life and Death of the Great Lakes recently. It's fascinating. So in for a treat there. But also please, we'll make sure to send to everybody who's watching today and everybody who registered that's going to tune in later tonight. We'll make sure to send a link to our homecoming Panther Bash, because we'd love to see you all down at the Mecca for a tailgate prior to the homecoming game. We have a lot of good festivities in store, and we're thrilled to be partnering with your great athletics team on that. So more to come, and good luck for an amazing season.
Thanks, Amy. Thanks for all you do. Appreciate it.
Thank you both.
Thank you very much, Amy.
Take care.
Okay, have a great day. Thanks for watching, everybody.
You too.